Hello and welcome to the first edition of Café Artistique format, where we talk about design, marketing, and marketing-related topics with experts from all over the world. The occasion of this is also that we just started our very first BSBI Faculty for the Creative Industries campus in cooperation with the University for the Creative Arts from Great Britain. And it is a very unique cooperation, and we are providing a British degree made in Germany, which is accepted worldwide and quite unique in its appearance. It has a quite long history, and very famous creators from Disney and Pixar have been students of the University for the Creative Arts and have joined the BA Animation and graduated and are now working in the industry quite successfully. Today, we are joined by Ralph Zimmerer from Nivea. He's Global Vice President of Marketing for Nivea. And he will talk about a journey Nivea took, about new directions. And we invited him because we're teaching very close to the industry and have bonds to the industry, and just to join forces and to see what's behind the scenes, basically. And without further ado, I would just give over to you. And I'm very excited about your presentation.
Super, no, I'm also excited here. I'm glad to be here. Fantastic to be with University for Creative Arts. Sounds great. I'd love to join. If I would be younger, I would probably make another degree. Creative Arts is exciting. And what I'll do today, I'll talk about purpose. In general, I think we're going to use Nivea as an example, but I worked a lot on purpose over the course of my career, and I'll hopefully share some insights why it's important, how you do it, and how you make it in a way which is relevant and successful.
I'm excited.
Very good?
Yeah.
I need to look here, no? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So welcome to the session around brand purpose, the why and the how. I'll try to go quite quick. I'll try to make roughly half an hour. And lead you quite quickly through the charts. And then hopefully get some time to talk about questions and answers and have a little chat with everyone. So what I'll do today, I'll talk about in the first place, why is purpose important? How do you find a purpose which is meaningful, relevant, and convincing? And then really how you make it credible, because there's a lot of purpose washing out there, so really making something which is credible is important. I'll use a bit of Nivea as an example. Then I'll talk about the key lessons learned and kind of watch out for people who are working on this topic, and hopefully we can have a little chat around questions from the audience. About myself, my name is Ralph Zimmerer. I've worked on lots of global brands that you can see on the chart here. Obviously, Nivea as well, Dove, also close to my heart, and X. I'm really a global FMCG expert. I've worked in this area for a long time, all around the world. And I really love leading brands and leading agencies and teams to really make a brand special and successful. And I've been with Unilever for 18 years, now with Bias for 7, and I'm a global person. I've lived in Hamburg, I live in Hamburg now, but I also live for work in New York, in Singapore, and London, so probably the rest of the school is. But I also work in all markets around the world, so I really enjoy that. And then I'm a true believer in purpose, and also quite active on the LGBTIQ front. To really, make a change in society. That's really what kind of drives me as well as a person. Good. Let's dive into the topic of purpose. And I think the big thing in a nutshell is that in today's world, social cultural relevance is really beating what we call socio-economic relevance. And what do I mean by that? What is all behind this a bit complicated words? On the one hand, what we see is that what used to be taught in macroeconomics, which is about homo economicus. So we as human beings, being very rational, and thinking about everything in a rational way is not really what's happening. I mean, it's not reflecting reality. It's a model which is outdated and a bit one-dimensional. This whole mantra that a lot of us grew up with around having growth just for growth's sake is really not relevant anymore for younger generations. It's questioned more and more. And we all realize, and especially the younger generation, that we can change the world. We can actually influence what's happening by the things we do, the things we express, and also the products and services we buy. So that is really a big realization. And for younger generations and all the others as well, the cultural impact that you can have is becoming much more important by the day. And we see that on the one hand in what we call the war for talent. So companies trying to attract the best talent to their companies. And the young people, the millennials, are really purpose-driven. So they want to join companies where they can make a difference. The statistic here that around 75% across the markets want to work for a company that reflects their values, with their values. And we also see that millennials stay longer at companies. They are 5 times more likely to stay when there's a strong purpose in place. And I've seen it in our own company at Bayersdorf, that people really say, I want to do something which makes sense. I want to do something where I can impact society, where I can really see progress being made. And it's not just about earning a salary, obviously it's also about earning some money, but they really opt for things which are exciting, where they can make a difference, and they see a change. That's on the employer side, I would say. The same applies, obviously, and that's where we looked at first for Nivea, is really the consumer side. Nowadays, people are savvy. They know that what I buy is a choice, and a choice that allows me to support things which are important for me. So consumers are really seeking the good behind the goods. They really want to ensure that with their purchase of a product or service, they can actually express and influence society. And what we heard a lot is that for the young people, the companies and brands are the ones that they expect to help drive the change. They don't really trust the government to do something. They really trust companies and brands because they believe they have the resources to really get this going. And this is reflected in some of the numbers that we looked at. So 4 out of 5 consumers told us that they remember a brand that responded positively to the pandemic. Obviously in the pandemic again, but it was the last wave. 1 out of 5 strongly agreed that this led to higher brand loyalty, so around 20%. And at the same time, we've seen that a quarter, so 25% of those who noticed brands acting in their own self-interest walked away from those brands. So they left those brands because they saw that they were actually not doing what they promised. So strong evidence that we've seen across the world, and that's not just the Western markets, that our consumers really want to see a change being driven by brands and companies. Case, I would say, for purpose-driven transformation. The question now is, and that's a bit the topic of the day today, is how do we find a relevant and credible purpose? How do you get to that? Is there like a recipe that allows you to find something which is right for your brand, right for your people, right for society? And before we get started going more deeply into purpose, let me share with you a small definition how we actually talk about purpose. So we talk about it as the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. So it's really, that is the question that we want to answer with a purpose. And I always use this a little bit funny picture here to explain it to people. So obviously you see this alien creature that has joined us from somewhere, and he or she is taking something away from our planet Earth. So could take away a brand, for example, like Dove or Nivea. And the question is, if you take it away, what is missing? What is the brand at the moment delivering to us humans that we would miss? Or is there nothing we would miss? But if a brand or company has a strong purpose, there will be something that you miss. And that's what we are looking for in all the work we had done. So we used this little diagram to kind of explain it. So we're looking for this intersections of something that the world needs. So there was a real need in the world for something to solve this tension or this issue. We are looking for something for which a brand is good at, so that you say, oh, this makes sense that this brand or company is kind of taking care of this issue. And then there's something also that people within the company are passionate about, because without passion, nothing moves. So with those intersections, what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you're passionate about, ideally that all overlaps to reveal the purpose that you as a brand or company are all about. So that's the theory. How you do it is, in a way, it's simple, but it's complicated at the same time. So at the heart of every purpose needs to be a tension. So something that you feel, somebody needs to take care of it. There's something happening which kind of disturbs you. And the tension is there because without attention, you don't have relevance. Nobody would care if there's no tension. So you need to find something which has a real tension and also a lasting tension. So the way we went about it is that we looked on the one hand at key drivers in society. So for example, through COVID, which was happening later than us developing our purpose, people are more and more apart. They have much more virtual connections like we have right now. There's much less physical contact. Also, people see other people less than they used to. So that's a societal trend. On the other side, we have a human truth. And the human truth is something which is very deep inside us humans. So the human truth could be, for example, that we humans need to feel like we're together. We need to feel to be with other people. And that physical contact is something which gives us a lot of psychological and physical benefits. And you can see that those two things, the human truth that we want to be together, the driver in society that keeps us apart, is creating a tension, and it's a tension which obviously has a lasting impact. And that tension you then want to actually resolve with your brand or your company. So let me try to make it a bit tangible, because obviously it's a quite conceptual approach, but it's an approach that worked very well for us. And I'll share with you the case study, how we did it at Nivea. First and foremost, we actually did an internal review. So we talked to stakeholders about where they see the brand being at this point in time. And we had a little scale from 1 to 10 and said, 1 is really, really crappy and 10 is super, super good. And they told us, it was 4 or 5 years ago, that probably Nivea is at 6 or 7 in their perspective. Well, not bad, but not super either. And there were a few topics coming through that you can see. The bigger the size of the words, the more important. So you can see that purpose was coming up at that time, that the idea that the brand needs to be modern and contemporary, the brand cycle was starting to come to an end, so there was the need for something fresh and new. And also sustainability was obviously already starting to come to the forefront. That was the, I would call, internal view, what we felt, and I think it was actually quite right. So we had quite a good view. At the same time, we obviously looked at our brand health tracking. So we are tracking our brand and the performance we have with consumers in 20 to 30 markets around the world. And we used the purchase funnel that you can see here to really measure what's happening and what we need to do. So you can see in terms of awareness, so people saying, oh yeah, skincare brand, I think about Nivea, high, still high. Distribution, media, also on a really good track. But you can see image was orange because we felt that we were starting to be less differentiated and especially less differentiated in the millennial target. Then we also looked at what we call penetration and loyalty, and we've seen again on loyalty we had done a really good job, but on penetration there were some signs in some markets that the brand was not so relevant anymore. Yeah, so there was also the input from the consumers that we needed to do something. So what we did then is really we went back to where we come from. So we looked at the history of the brand. You might know that the brand has been there for over 110 years. So we are very proud about our history, and we really tried to build on it. So we went back and we looked at what our founder, that you can see here, Dr. Troplowitz, said. And for him, beauty had always been about health. That was his mantra. So healthy skin is beautiful skin. That when you have skin that is beautiful, you feel better about yourself. You feel more open to approach other people. And the way we work with the skin is by working with the skin's own biology. So we work together with the skin. Yeah? So that was really our starting point, looking at what we might be good at, and what we might be passionate about. And at the same time, we found out that there's this huge tension that people are just more and more alone, and that the virtual connections are never really able to replace what we humans need, and that we tested around the world. Yeah? So we had developed different routes and have tested them in 14 markets, so really across Europe, Asia, South America, Africa. We really kind of tried to find out what can work across. And the fascinating thing is in marketing, sometimes it does work across. I remember when we started the research, I was negotiating with myself. I said, if it works well in 8 markets out of 14 and the others are a bit different, why not? That's already quite good. And in the end, it worked in every market, because the insight that we had found, which is expressing also the tension, was relevant across the markets. Because if you've got something which is really deep human insight, it does work across. So let's take a look how our purpose insight looks like. It's about skin being our pathway to touch, and that human touch, the sensation of feeling skin on skin, is a basic need, because babies require it to develop, children to grow, and adults to bond and enjoy togetherness. But, and that's the tension, the quickening pace of daily life, more virtual connection, just a feeling not having time, stands in the way of human touch and can make us feel lonely and isolated. So that's really the one insight that we discovered around the world that really builds our purpose. And we did both. We did qualitative research, so we talked to consumers in different groups around the world. We also did quantitative research, so we did big global studies to really understand the topic of human touch in detail, because once you understand what you want to solve, what your purpose is, you really need to become an expert at it, to really kind of make sure that you're the one understanding it best. And we've then expressed it in what we call our purpose statement, that we care for human touch to inspire togetherness. That's the purpose that we have given us as a brand. And to illustrate a little bit, I'll show you a short video that kind of summarizes how we went about it and also how our purpose looks like. Yeah.
The world is speeding up. We're always on with platforms, screens, devices helping us to interact. For years we thought a text could just replace a touch, a message or a like sustain a friendship. Yes, it can help, but it is not enough. All around the globe we are connected, and yet we're feeling lonely, somehow less human. We're out of touch. Nothing has made us feel this more acutely than the COVID-19 pandemic. Just when we needed more than ever the comfort of a human touch, we had to stay apart beyond the inner circle. And we still do.
Somebody hold my head up.
That's why Nivea is taking up this cause. Care for human touch. To inspire togetherness. Why Nivea? Because skin is the pathway to touch. Human touch, the feeling of skin on skin, is a physical need. It helps babies develop, children to grow, and adults to bond. It reduces pain, calms the beat of our heart, and strengthens our immune system, and even increases the survival of premature babies. As a we brand, we've always cared beyond healthy, beautiful skin. That's why we work actively to make a difference. From making people aware about the health benefits of touch, to supporting skin touch programs against loneliness. For this, Nivea needs the help of every one of you. So spread the news. Reach out and stay in touch with each other. Carefully, responsibly, with love and respect. Because touch speaks to the heart, brings us together. Touch makes us human. Nivea, join our Care for Human Touch initiative.
Good. I hope this gives you a good overview what the purpose is all about, and hopefully also inspired you a little bit to kind of feel it, because that's what it's all about. And what I mentioned is that when we tested it around the world, we really had a very positive response all across. The Market Research Institute told us this was the most consistent research they have seen in 25 years, because this insight was just so true across. And it was true whether it was an individualistic or collective society, and really also across generations. So that was really, really interesting for us to see. So once we had that, the challenge was all about how do we now actually do it in a way which is credible, and how do we bring it into action? And this is really where the social mission that we redefined for the brand came into place. To start off with, we really reached out to experts. It was fascinating over the development time. We met a lot of people, and once you get the first ones, you know more and more. So we really kind of built a network of experts that we worked with very closely, that helped us understand the territory of human touch better, the benefits of human touch, like your heart rate goes down, or premature babies survive, older patients with dementia can be calmer. Yes, there are lots of benefits that they helped us to understand, and also gave us a lot of guidance on how to act on the inside as a brand. We also did a lot of own research. So we did 2 global reports on human touch, the biggest research that was ever done before the pandemic, because we had started with the work before, and then also during, so we could see the change that happened in those times, and how the importance of human touch went up, but also the human touch in terms of physical contact went down. And we also did research around the effect of human touch on skin and skin health, and we could show that more skin touch actually helps, for example, sensitive skin to become less sensitive. Yeah, lots of work. I could talk about hours, but we don't have the time right now. And what we've seen, obviously, which also led to our social mission in the report during the pandemic, is that every second person stated that the isolation during the pandemic has made them feel lonelier than ever before in their lives. And every second person. So we could see that the trend towards more loneliness, which already had started in society, was heavily accelerated through the pandemic. So that led really to our social mission, that we said what we want to do as a brand is support skin touch projects to promote the quality of life for people at risk of loneliness. So we were very specific in what we wanted to achieve. We defined 3 target groups: premature babies that survive better through kangaroo care. The second target are people who are visually impaired, so blind people, who we help through our funding to interact through touch. And then the third one is older people with dementia, where the research shows that actually skin contact helps them to calm down and have better quality of life. So we're supporting programs that are looking at therapeutic massage. Yeah, so very focused on the benefits of human touch. And we have actually pledged as a brand by 2025 to have reached 150,000 people around the world. We will have spent 20 million euros on those programs, and we want to have them ready in 70 countries. So you can see that we really try to understand how we best help in this topic, how we support as a brand, and committed ourselves to quite high standards in terms of bringing it to life. And this is an example. Skin to Skincare program is a program of UNICEF in the UK, where premature babies actually get skin to skin care, and the chances of survival are therefore much, much higher. So that's the social mission side. What we also did at the same time is really engage the world. And I think the world is everyone. It's us, it's our employees, it's the people around, not working for us, but perhaps liking us. And we kind of brought it into the world. First, what we did, we started internally. So we launched it and kicked it off within the company. So really making sure that people understand what we're looking at, what we want to achieve, and how they can help us. Because a purpose is not only a purpose for the outside, it's also a purpose for the inside. And you really need to use the purpose to transform your organization from within, and making sure that everybody understands what you're trying to achieve. Yeah, so we started internally. Then we did a global press conference with a lot of journalists from around the world, and also employees being present, obviously all virtual at that time because it was in January. But we really kicked it off. We got great press coverage. People were really excited about us taking on this topic during those difficult times. And you can imagine the discussions we also had within the company when it's the right point to go out. But I think we found the right moment in time and got a lot of attention for the topic, which is important to us because through awareness, you can really drive the change. And then we started to roll it out into the markets. So we started first in Europe, then rolled it out further. And we used a film, which I'll show to you in a second, which is a true story. It's a story of 2 twin sisters from Hamburg, so from here, who have been born prematurely. And actually only, I will not tell the story, you'll see it. They'll tell us what is happening. And let me just play the film for you.
Human touch changed my family's life. And although not all of us can touch right now, it was at one time our salvation. This is our story. 16 years ago, my twin sister and I were born. 9 weeks too early. My sister had a hole in her heart and could not breathe by herself. My parents were desperate. The doctors were helpless. She became so weak, it seemed all hope was lost. But then, a nurse had the idea to put my sister next to me in the incubator. Although of course I can't remember it, I touched and held her. And right after that, she got stronger. I survived because of my sister's touch. Touch saved my life. That's why we support Nivea's initiative for premature babies.
Nivea. Care for human touch.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story, and the girls are fantastic. I met them several times. They're really super lively, and because they really experienced it themselves, they also wanted to share the story and make sure they can make a difference and inspire people to have more human touch. Because the one thing we had learned is that people not necessarily willingly forget to touch each other. It's just something which sometimes is forgotten because you got so much to do, there's so much happening, you feel like I can do it later. But the reality is that with that, less and less touch is happening, and thereby also the positive benefits, physical and psychologically, are actually missing. And we use this film, which we call Twins, as you can see here, in lots of different social media ways. So we obviously had statistics that we used, testimonials from the two. It's all about actually educating people about the power of human touch, to have awareness for it, because we realized once you know it, once you understand it, you watch yourself differently and take more care about integrating it into your life. And that's really what you want to achieve. That's why we obviously drove this as a digital campaign in all kinds of channels. We have had and have a digital hub that you can access. You can learn more about the research, the findings, everything that's interesting around human touch. So we obviously also took a first look at results of the campaign, and they look really good. We got much more views that we wanted to, completed views, contacts. So really happy about that. We had a very positive coverage in the press, in the public, and also seeing our purpose as being something which is very true to the brand, to the heritage of the brand, but at the same time very credible and very committed. And yeah, I mean, the young people joining us are excited to really work on something which is meaningful, which is relevant, where they can actually put all their energy behind to really make a difference. A few lessons learned and watch outs. So if you are planning to work on a purpose, I'll try to share what we've learned over the time. I think the first thing, and that's probably the most important thing, that's why it comes first, is that you need a strong social tension and a brand fit. It really needs to have attention. Otherwise, there's no reason to do something, because if it's not relevant to the people you're trying to engage, stay home. Yeah, so it's really about finding attention, understanding whether your brand and company fits, and then validating it with consumers. It's good to have a gut feel, but you also need to validate it with consumers around the world. The purpose needs to be also quite simple. It can't be too complicated. You need to remember it quite easily, and ideally, it somehow links again to the brand, to your product or your service offer that you've got, where you feel like, yeah, that kind of makes sense that you do this because I somehow can connect it with them. And then once you have that, tension, super simple, makes sense for the brand, you need to bring it into action across everything, across your product development, your communication development, your design, so that all touch points that people have that come in contact with your brand, you can kind of sense what this brand is all about. And then, and that's not coming to the end, it's actually happening the whole time, you need to inspire the whole organization. Ideally, you take them on the journey of your development, then really engage the board, the CEO, but also everyone, that is working on the brand. But you need the endorsement, obviously, also from the top. to really ensure that everyone says, yeah, that's where we're marching towards. So once all of that has happened, I think then credibility is really key. Really make sure that what you do it seriously, you do it with commitment. You go out and commit, because otherwise it might just be seen as nice blah blah and purpose washing. And then never forget, it's a long-term commitment. So on the brand I used to work before, on Dove, also very purpose-driven brand. The purpose is now in place, I think, for over 15 years and still going strong. And that's fantastic, because it means that you can do something meaningful, because you become the expert in the field. Yeah, people come to you to say, oh, can we work together? Because I know you're into this topic, so that's great. And then secondly, obviously, you also start to own something in consumers' minds, and they associate you with an important cause, and the values and the relevance that you have in the purpose is also transferred to your brand. And you honestly, if it's a strong insight, you can activate it over years, because you always take different angles, different approaches, but the key topic stays the same. And if it has a huge human truth and a strong tension, it will be relevant. Well, forever is a big word, but for a long time. So that's something that you can then really build upon. So the hard work is obviously then paying off. So that's a quick run through on my experience with purpose, why it's important, how you go about it, and how you launch it. And very happy to obviously answer any questions. A little watch out here, that's meant in a funny way. A purpose will also transform you. I mean, having worked on this myself, it has transformed me. It has transformed the team we were working with, and it will transform your brand and your company. So if you do it right, it's a fantastic journey that starts and never really ends, but it's very impactful for you and everyone on a personal level. So without further ado, I'm very happy to answer any questions that we might have, Jan.
Yeah, Ralph, thank you for this super interesting and very insightful presentation. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if anyone has questions, just type them in the chat and we're happy to talk about them, answer them. Mm-hmm. So of course, this topic raised a few questions or ideas, thoughts in myself. You were talking about that touch seemingly got less and less in the past. It's like society became a bit more cold and distant, and people were kind of yearning for it. On the other side, they forgot it and yearning for it. So your purpose was like at the right time, also.
Yeah, true.
Finding it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it all happened, like a lot of things happened unconsciously. So I think, just the feeling that everything became so speedy and all the change and a lot of virtual connection led to that feeling of, oh, I can do this later. I can hug you if I've got more time, roughly. Yeah, and that was a bit subconsciously. Mm-hmm. And once people thought about it, and that's why it's a deep insight, I said, yeah, it's actually true when I think about it. I really do, I'm less in touch than I used to be. And it's not about demonizing virtual communication or social media or whatever. It's just that we need to remember how important it is and take time for it. And that was unconscious, and that's why it was a great insight, because people said, oh yes, when you tell me, there's something to it, it happened to me as well. And then coupled with the benefits that a lot of people did not know about, the really proven scientific benefits of human touch, then it became really powerful.
Yeah, and this is something you said that I find super important for purpose. Like being credible, you stressed it, and becoming an expert. Because if it's just a facade, people will recognize this quite easily, and then it might even be bad for the brand.
Counterproductive. No, I'm with you. And I think it's a waste of time. I mean, because
money.
That as well, yeah. Because I think you really want to make a difference, and we learned so much about this topic And we got deeper and deeper into it and got more and more excited. And I think you really want to make sure you're a spokesperson for this tension, yeah? Because you want to bring it to the forefront. You want to change things. And that's also then the satisfaction you get out of it, and the motivation that the people working for it on it actually experience.
And and exactly, the working for it, that's something I didn't think about, that like purpose needs to be inside the company as well. It's not just something for the consumers.
It needs to be actually inside before, because I think it needs to go inside out. And the reality for such big brands is that people need to understand it, because in the end, you want them, through understanding the purpose, to act in the right way. Otherwise, you would need to write 50 gazillion guidelines that everybody understands what they need to do. But with a strong purpose in place, some things people can decide themselves, because they know, oh no, this is not what we do. I do this, so I decide for this. I'm not showing, I don't know, pictures where nobody touches. I show touch. No? I mean, so I think that a deep understanding of the purpose within the organization helps you to get all the touch points right outside of the organization as well.
And like you said, if it fits to the organization, like the care for human touch might not be relevant for any car.
Could be, exactly. Yeah,
but it's like,
but exactly.
It's a long stretch.
It's a long stretch, exactly.
We actually got a question from the chat, which is, could you please define Beiersdorf, and is there a difference between it and Nivea? And what are Nivea's plans to compete with other competitors?
Okay. I mean, obviously, Beiersdorf is the company behind Nivea. To be fair, Nivea being the biggest brand in the portfolio, it also influences Beiersdorf a lot. Yeah. So I think, our logo is blue, the Beiersdorf logo is blue. I think there is a lot of overlap between the two. But Beiersdorf, obviously the company behind it, and we've got more brands than Nivea, like Eucerin or other brands like 84, Labello, exactly. Yeah. And that also belong to Beiersdorf. Yeah. On the competitive question, obviously I can't really talk about it. Obviously, I'm sure they have plans. We have plans. The company has plans. We're all going to do our best. But I think what we have seen is that obviously our purpose is also really something which fits best to us. That's also that we ask consumers which brand could answer this tension unbrandedly. There, Nivea was obviously coming up as the brand that had the strongest fit also from a consumer perspective.
I understand that. The second question is, how important is the slogan for any brand, and how that affects promotion and sales?
That's a very good question. It's the eternal question, I would say. Do you need a slogan? Do you need an end line? Do you not need a slogan? Do you not need an end line? There are lots of different people and different opinions about it. We don't have a slogan at this point in time. Obviously, Care for Human Touch is the hashtag for the purpose.
And not to be confused with the slogan, right?
Exactly, it's not a slogan. No, it's a hashtag for the initiative. In my view, in my humble view, I think if you're a really, really strong brand, you might not need an end line, because people already understand what you stand for, and you don't need to preach what you stand for. You should probably, shape that image in the heads of your consumer through your actions, to the products you offer, the communication you have, what you do. That would be the ideal, rather than saying to someone, "Look, I'm about this."
That might be a weakness, even if you need something.
I would
not always, but
I mean, in some cases it can really work. I mean, Nike, obviously, for them it has worked a lot, although they're not really having it in place anymore, because it's already internal, probably. So, in the ideal world, I think your branding and what the brand stands for happens in your head and in your mind when you just see the logo. Yeah, that's the ultimate goal, I would say.
Yeah, and that's quite hard to achieve. And then you also have, you like with current generations, you need a purpose, you need to walk the talk, and then it automatically becomes like engraved into your brand or heavily associated with the brand.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you really champion a cause, and you champion it seriously, you champion it visibly, you're doing it over time, in principle, you should be associated with it after a certain time period, because you're the one doing it, talking about it. I find Edelman does a very good job as a PR agency. They've invented this trust barometer that they publish every year. And they're really associated with that. You read about it and say, oh yeah, trust, yeah, Edelman, trust. So I think that is a good thing to do, because I think it also shows your commitment and that you mean it seriously.
And again, expertise as well.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not an expert, then you're not credible. Yeah,
exactly.
That's quite interesting. There's another question. But before that, has there been also like a shift in because we're design university, a shift in the visual communication? Does it reflect a change in purpose?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, definitely. I think it's all work in progress. I mean, it's all happening, but in the end, we really thought through how that specific purpose is translating into all touch points. So packaging, branding, communication, product formulation. So really thought through that from the beginning. And obviously with human touch, you can expect more human design, I would say, in a nutshell.
Yeah. So a change in purpose is also like something really fundamental. You have to change like everything or carry it through. Yeah. Not just exchange one image.
Yeah, because I always get back to the touch points. As a person, you have, with a brand, you've got lots of different touch points. You've got the packaging, you've got a TV, digital, you have formulations, what's on the pack, what do they write, what do they write on the website. So I think you've got so many touch points.
In this case.
Everything, you have so many touch points. And I think in the end, what you're all about needs to be coming to life in the right way, obviously, at those different touch points. So it just can't be, it's one touch point, that's it. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Really. And also, it wouldn't be credible. If a brand is a person, and if a person, it's not like I only live the purpose when you look at me, but when I open my mouth, it's different. That doesn't work. It needs to be synced.
And that's what people like really quickly like understand.
You can see through if it's not that case. I think so.
And then again, there comes into play that the purpose is lived in the inside. Because if people working in the company, they're talking outside the company as well. And if you know someone working in the company and you know, they say something on the outside, but it's completely different in the inside.
Yeah, I think it's that. But also, you will automatically see it in what's happening. Because, in those big organizations, if you have a brand that 2 people are working on, it's easy. But if you have a brand that thousands of people are working on, you can't tell all of them personally what to do. So to a certain degree, you need to get to their heart and their mind to understand what we're all trying to achieve, so they can act on behalf of the brand in the right way. That's the secret. That's the dream that you want to get to.
And talking about the insight and wanting to work for a brand, what does it take to become part of a marketing team at Nivea? It's one question we got. And what would be your suggestions for students to be able to work at marketing for Nivea, like a brand like Nivea?
Okay. I mean, first of all, obviously, everything by ourselves is always happy to get applications of great talent. That's the easiest way to reach out, go to the website, look at jobs. We're always looking for great talent. I think it helps a lot if somehow what the company does and the brand does resonates with you. So if you're someone who's a me person, that might not fit, because we are more of a we company and a we brand, as an example. So I think it's good to question yourself whether you would get excited working for the specific company or brand.
Are you like a lone wolf or like a group kind of person, basically?
For example, or if you're not really interested in skincare and cosmetics, but more into, I don't know, alcohol and drinks, go to alcohol and drinks. It's fine. I mean, there needs to be some kind of a connection.
Exactly.
And I think students, again, I mean, look at the website of Bayersdorf, and there are always things happening there and interesting jobs popping up. So I think that's the best thing to do.
We've got another interesting question. You kind of answered it already in your presentation. Does Nivea have different value-based or purpose-based strategies for different markets, or does it have the same global strategy for all markets?
Yeah, the same. It's really what we wanted to achieve, because it's very difficult to, be this in one country and that in another, and this region. I think the big thought is the same, the purpose is the same, the big thought is the same, the positioning is the same. Obviously, the way you execute it might differ. Yeah, so I think how you show it then in terms of talent, but perhaps also in terms of situations that you cast, that certainly changes and makes sense to adapt. But I would say the ultimate goal, kind of the dream of every marketeer, is to find this one insight that resonates across the world. And I've seen it in this case. I did groups in China and Brazil and whatever, Germany and Russia. And we heard people in the focus groups, and they would say, I need to go home and call my mom, or my husband, I need to hug him. And we heard it across the world. So the reaction was really the same reaction. Obviously, one in Chinese, one in Portuguese, and But the resonance, that unconscious, oh wow, I didn't think about this, and then the wanting to act on it and change what she are doing around the world was the same, and that's really fascinating.
And it shows that this has been a quite strong insight and very human indeed. So it doesn't change. And now a personal question: how do you change yourself in different markets with the products, the purpose, and positioning? Like, you have been working for different brands. How did you change, or how did you change? Did you change at all?
Good. I'm not sure I'm the right one to ask. I'm sure I changed. I mean, you change a lot with your environment. No, I mean, when I moved to Asia, for example, I learned a lot about the cultures there and the people and how they think, and they're more collective societies than in the West. So I think I learned a lot about the world myself and my interactions. I think the purpose on Dove is a very purpose-driven brand. I learned so much about self-esteem for girls, and the challenges that are there. I've also been to lots of schools and made programs with them or trainings. And then now Nivea, I think that was a journey for all of us, because I think for us it was also new insight. And as a team, we really started to interact differently. So we started to hug and kiss and be happy and really touch more. And we really all realized how nice it is. And obviously, when it's possible in the pandemic, but when we started, it was not there. It really changed all of us, and really put some priorities right again. We said, no, it's more important to meet my friend, be close, spend some time together, than doing another thing that I feel like I need to do now, which might not be important. So I think, yes, it also changed myself and my relationship with people.
And that's nice to hear. And that's again walking the talk on a private level, and that even impacted you, and again shows, wow, that's a really insightful thing.
Right, we've got many questions here. That's fantastic.
People are very engaged, which I like. And then something really specific. Are any interesting markets of execution which was challenging, like in a certain market with like a regional player and their regional bonding? Like, if there was
yes and no. I mean, to a certain degree, the inside was the same inside. But I don't know, if you go to Saudi Arabia, you can't show a lot of things, because, same sex you can't show, first place. Men, woman, more woman touching woman. There are obviously cultural specificities around human touch that you need to keep in mind.
Yeah.
That you need to kind of take into account, because otherwise you also don't achieve your goal, because if people feel like what you show is not appropriate, you will not engage. So I think...
quite the opposite.
Exactly, yeah. So you kind of need to make sure that you take it into account. But in the end, that I think worked out really well.
And regarding this, are you working with local teams or local agencies to, I mean, I don't know how people think in, let's say, in Chile. I don't know regional specificity.
Yeah, it's a difficult word, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it helps. You can also work with the marketing teams. I think you see quite quickly, which scenes, like which kind of situations resonate. And some of them are similar around the world. You then need to just tweak a little bit how exactly you show it and the talent. Some are really also local. And also when we developed some communication, we also took it into account. So we would have situations which would be for specific markets. And then I think it's also great if local come up with more ideas. No? I think it's just making it richer, and more relevant as well. Yeah. And in the end, the objective we have is really drive awareness for the importance of human touch and the benefits. So to a certain degree, if they have great ideas that help us achieve that, fantastic. Yeah.
And a thought on this. For instance, you're driving awareness about human touch, and how important is it for you, or how angry you are if people turn to another brand? The importance came up, and they think, okay, but I know I got to care for my skin, but I'm turning to a different product to take this into account. I mean, it can happen.
Yeah, it can happen. I'm not sure it happens because of the purpose then, to be honest. Yeah. Perhaps we then need to even more link what the product delivers to the purpose. No? So that's why for us, this whole idea that, healthy, beautiful skin is actually, to a certain degree, a bit of a prerequisite to get in touch, because if you don't feel good about yourself, you don't really want to reach out. So then we need to make it clearer to consumer why our products are even better at doing that. I think that would be then the job to be done. But I think that's very well solvable. I think sometimes you've got purposes that in themselves are very relevant, and they perhaps address a really good tension, but they're far away from your product offer, and that is quite difficult. That really, then it becomes a bit schizophrenic, because you're driving this, but your product is like going there.
Off, yeah.
And it's quite an expensive thing to do, I think.
Yeah. All right. We don't have any more questions from the chat. If so, I think we're already over time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for these very interesting insights. Thanks for the talk. And I just want to thank everyone who made this possible, our first edition of Café Artistique, like the Gastberg Hotel, where we could hold this cafe. Thanks to my team, to my colleagues, Liz, Akshoy, to Professor Kyriakos, who came up with the idea, and to our CEO, Sagi Hartov. Thanks, everyone. We would like to have you back on the second edition in January. Be safe, have pleasant holidays, and stay safe, everyone. Thanks for having us and tuning in.